Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Be the Man podcast. We're just sitting here on a very cold morning here in Fletcher, North Carolina. My name is Eli Tilley, and I'm sitting here with Pastor Stacy Harris. Pastor, how are you, other than cold?
I'm really good. I'm just, Eli and I, this new video part of our podcast has been interesting for us.
Yes.
He put me, if you can see me, you know this, but if you're picking it up just audio, he's put me in a swivel chair today, and I'm a nervous tick, just swiveling this chair back and forth. But I'm doing good, Eli.
You know,
if
for you guys out there, if you're watching YouTube or Spotify or Facebook, whichever realm you're watching this on, you might notice how we are trying to adjust. This new video realm is, if we're not mirrored, if that makes any sense. We're a little backwards, if you will. So we're both, I guess, trying to get you used to the way this looks.
Yeah, my right hand looks like my left hand to me, and it's kind of crazy when you do something. It really is. But man, we're glad you're watching. I don't know how I went down that road, but here we are. We're glad you're listening, and glad you are watching. Eli, yeah, cold this morning, man. Just cold, but I believe the Lord's going to warm us up right here together as we think about our job description. Always when we get here, set down, by the Apostle Paul, certainly love your wives as Christ has loved the church. I just thought about this. This is bonus for today. This is not really what's on my heart, but your baby needs to get the best of you guys. She needs to get the best, period. You know what made me think of it, Eli? As I was walking out, we have two. Don't judge me too harshly. We got two little Fords. Just been a Ford man forever, so I know Eli's cringing. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
he's
yeah.
not. He's kind of, but he's being really kind to me.
Yeah.
So we have them out in the lot. One of them has a remote start. One of them doesn't. So it was 10 degrees in the hollow this morning, brother. And Tammy got up, getting ready to go to the gym. Hit the gym hard. Which vehicle you think she takes in this morning?
The one, is it the one you remote started?
The remote start. That's
right.
right. Because I want it warm. I want the steering wheel warm. I want the heat seater on. I want the climate right. I don't want the door froze shut. So I just thought to myself, I was really happy. That didn't bother me one little bit. I had to trudge out there in my bundled up self.
Did you get in your little truck on the way over here?
Actually, not my Ranger today.
Oh,
I drove my little Edge this morning, but somehow I'm going to have to get Eli to work on it for me, guys. The little heater is just not what it ought to be in that thing. So maybe on 10-degree mornings, the heater isn't what it ought to be in anything. But nevertheless, I digress. I say, make sure your baby gets the best. I thought about that. Maybe another podcast for another day. Today, I want to talk about this with you. Just been on my mind heavy. Guys, we don't need to take one moment. Maybe does this set with your spirit well, Eli? We don't take a moment for granted with our wives. Not one. Now, I know you can't be over the moon and everything, just all, you can't be sappy connection, and I'm going to just, to the neglect of all else, I'm going to be right here with you all the time. I mean, there's life and there's business that has to happen. But I think even in those moments where we really could connect and really could intentionally redeem the time, if you'll let me borrow that phrase from the scripture, redeem the time, I think we need to pay attention to that, Eli, and do that intentionally. I've been kind of, in my mind, running over some strategies. How do we really do that? How do we redeem the time? And the Lord really took me to John chapter 12, verses 1 through 8, to a really, you might think this is not an applicable passage, but it's to a quote in verse 8, where I struggled with this. I shared this with Eli. For a long time in ministry, I struggled with this. But it's really one of the most beautiful verses in all the Word. It comes at the end of Mary's anointing of Jesus' feet, washing it with her hair. And Jesus makes a real cool statement about some criticism that she received from this. And it really encourages us to understand this idea to redeem the time. So maybe today's podcast is this. I'm going to, at the end of the day, in an applicable way, I'm going to give you a strategy so you won't waste one night. So you won't waste one night with your bride, that you'll redeem that time. So maybe Eli's our word man, and we'll let him read for us, and maybe we'll put our pastor's hat on and say a few things from this scripture, and then we'll give you some practical ways, a strategy that you can rest assured that you'll make the most of every night with your bride. So Eli, read for us, man, and we're going to dive in.
Yeah, this is John chapter 12, verse 7 and 8. Verse 7 says, Then Jesus said, Let her alone. Against the day of my bearing she had kept this. For the poor always you have with you, but me you don't always have.
How powerful. So did you hear that? Verse 8 is, hey, you've always got the
You
poor with
always
you.
got the poor with you.
Isn't that an interesting statement?
That is
I
interesting.
used to think that he was deriding the poor. Hey, don't, it's easy to read that into that. That's not what he's saying at all. The matter of fact, he's emphasizing, hey, the poor are important. That's a worthy thing. It's a ministerial thing. It's something I've told you to do. Take care of the poor, widows and orphans even James talks about, but certainly not Jesus running down the poor. He's saying, I'm not going to always be here with you.
Yeah. You always got the poor.
That's right.
But you don't always have me.
That's right. In a bodily form, these days are numbered. And at this point, they were really numbered because we know it's just a handful of days before Jesus going to the cross and give his life for us. And he's saying this lady, Mary's very perceptive in that she understands my burial's coming. I'm not going to be here always. And she did not want to waste one moment that she had with Jesus in bodily form, and she was willing to go to extravagant measures to show him how much she cared about him and to love on him in the very best way that she possibly could. So if we back up to the context, the story goes, there they are at the dinner table, so to speak, at the house, and I'm always struck by the detail of who's there. Lazarus is there. Look at who's in this room. Lazarus is there. John's very careful to say, now this is the guy that was dead, okay? There's a guy sitting in the room that was dead for a few days. Jesus came along and spoke to him, and he came out of the grave, the people that were in this house, pretty important. You got the disciples, and all those folks are there that love Jesus very much. I got to imagine it was a relaxed environment, that says, hey, he was kind of reclining there at the table, interacting with the people that I believe the close people to him, the people he just loved so deeply, that he had walked with for all these years, he wanted to spend time. Now, this is where I'm going today. Look at Jesus' mindset. He wanted to be with his bride. That was the embryo of the church right there that was sitting in that room with him. He knew that it was on them. He had prepared them for the moments when he wasn't going to be here. Yeah. And he wanted to spend every moment that he could with them. He wanted to redeem the time, okay? I love you, and I want to be with you. So there's an example for us guys. Don't take one moment for granted. He wanted to redeem the time. So what does Mary do? She comes in with this oil of nard, spike nard. She pours it all over Jesus' feet. She wipes her feet with her hair, and who is it, Eli, that has a problem with what's going on? You see that in the verses prior. John just calls out one guy that kept the bag. Remember, he was the guy that kept the bag.
Judas Iscariot?
Right. He said, man,
that's right.
Here's Judas. Got a problem with what Mary's doing.
Oh,
all
Judas.
Right? Oh, here we go. He's got a real problem. He voices up the monetary value, okay? What'd he say?
He says, wasn't this not ointment was sold for 300 pence and given to the poor?
What is she doing?
What are you doing with this, Jesus? Yeah.
You're letting her do this, Lord, man. We could have sold that. Yeah. We could have sold that stuff she just poured out on you. To Judas, the value was in the monetary side of things. Mary's value was in the relational side right there. Judas, oh my gosh, you know how much 300 pence is, Eli?
I don't think I do.
So scholars tell us that people made about a denarius or a denarii a day. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about close to a year's pay. It would have taken her a year.
Wow.
Right at it. If she was working for $1 a day, let's put it in American terms, if it was $1 a day, she was would have taken her a year to make this, enough money to buy this. And here's Judas seeing a year's worth of money.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he's freaking out. Now, here again, Mary's Jesus-centered, all right? What does John say about Judas? Why did he say that? We could have sold that money, and here's why Jesus invoked the poor, because Judas said, hey, we could have sold that, and we could have ministered to the poor. But John said, he didn't say it for that reason. Why did John say that Judas said it?
Well, he goes on in there's verse 9, 10, 11. He says, much people of the Jews therefore knew that he was there, and they came not for Jesus' sake only, but that they might see Lazarus also, whom he raised from the dead. So he's ministering to other people
So
through
many
this.
people.
In verse 11, he goes on and says, because by that reason, many of the Jews went away and believed Jesus.
Absolutely. So there was a
Believed in
gospel
Jesus.
moment in this for sure.
Yeah.
And he was ministering to so many people. And here's Mary understanding the moment and saying, I'm going to seize it, and I'm not going to let this slip by.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell Jesus how much I love him and show him. And here's Judas saying, no, it's a monetary moment. It's not a ministry moment. Man, we could have sold that and ministered to the poor. And let's even make it a step deeper in Judas's life. Really wasn't about the poor for him.
Yeah.
He was going to put it in his own pocket.
And I like Jesus' response. It's kind of I guess it's kind of comical. He's just like, leave her alone. You know,
Yeah, let her be, man.
This is what we're doing here.
Let her
this
be.
is a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, let her be. Let her be. She doesn't always have me. So here's the bridge. There's all our theological exegesis. Maybe not the best it's ever been of this passage, but just to give you a flavor to set up Jesus' remark in verse 8. Listen, let her alone. Let her do this, man. This is what I want her to do, and I'm receiving it for what it is, for her love for me. And I am with her, and she is with me in this moment. And you are missing it, in that you're missing this moment. I'm not always going to be here. Tomorrow you could say, I would like to spend a moment like that with you, Jesus, and I'm not going to be here. Yeah. So don't miss the moment. Redeem this time. That's what she's doing. You always got chances to minister. You're always going to have that. Matter of fact, you're going to have a lot of them in front of you. I'm not going to be here in this way. So she spotted that and saw it. So in your marriage now, let's get back to the application for us as men today. How often do we just miss the moment? We're worried financially, okay? Wait a minute now. That's going to... do you know what that just cost us, preacher? Hey, I can tell you there's been a lot of dates I've taken Tammy on that maybe people would say, what are you doing? You could have done something else with that money, Pastor. No, I couldn't have done anything better in that moment than spend time with her. So there's balance. I'm not saying that, and Jesus would say there's balance. But she perceived the gravity of that moment and the opportunity, okay? She was opportunistic. So, guys, how do we seize every opportunity? Not focus on the monetary value, which as gentlemen, we're sometimes apt to do, is, well, that's just too much. Well, is it really too much for your bride? Is it really, what would you pay? Down the road, what would you pay for a moment to go back that you could redeem in a different way with your bride? Because here again, I'm going to go back to one of my be the man. I hope this rings in your spirit when you run across things like this and you have to make a decision. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. And that's what Jesus is saying. You're worried about the price. I'm worried about the value. I'm worried about what she's doing. I'm worried about what it means. I'm worried about the relationship between, again, this is his bride. People are being birthed into the church right here. He is spending time with them because he knows his time is short, and he wanted to spend time with them. He was more worried about the time than he was the monetary value. So, guys, you got to get past that monetary thing, okay? Now, within reason, there's a whole couple of podcasts on budgeting and prioritizing how you spend your money. But here's what I'm trying to tell you today. Don't miss a moment. Now, I'm going to give you a good strategy. And Eli, here's the beauty. It won't cost you one dime, okay? It will not cost you a dime. Here's a strategy to never waste a night, okay? To sow into your bride every night. You won't waste a moment. You'll redeem the time. You find that interesting, Eli?
I think there's in a lot of guys' lives, and I think about this with just in the realm of ministry and the way that I do things and just in general, there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of, we do a lot as a human race. We do a lot of things as people in general. And, I've heard a lot of people say, well, I just can't find time to do that. Or I just don't have the time to do X, or I don't have the time to do Y. And I think this is a really applicable thing because I go back to the book of Acts. I've been studying that pretty heavily. And, they have this moment with Jesus right before he, ascends for the final time. He comes back and spends a couple of days with them. I don't remember how long it was exactly, but he spends a little time with the disciples. And they're like, we got this time. We got to take advantage of every moment we can get. And I don't care what else is going on. I'm going to take the time to do this. And no matter what is happening around me, no matter all the distractions, and I think that's the mentality I try to adopt, and I think a lot of us should have is there's a lot of things going on. It gets busy, but what is more important to you? What's your priority was, and how
do we allocate that time?
Exactly.
How do we do it? And you're hitting on a great point here, Eli, that time, again, is our greatest commodity, guys. Yeah. You look at inflation. It's been through the roof. All of a sudden, what you thought money was worth, a couple years ago is not worth that anymore. And we're struggling, hoping that one day it'll be worth that again. But the reality is, if it is worth that again, then there's going to come a moment where it's not worth that. So, you can't assign that monetary value to time. There's nothing like time. It's the most valuable commodity that we have, and how we choose to spend it. That is the scriptural admonition. You redeem the time. The days are evil. There's a lot of distractions out there, and certainly that's uttered in a different context than maritally, but it's time. Yeah. He's saying make the most of your time, and here's Jesus saying Mary's doing just that. Yeah. And Eli, you're right, and a lot of us don't. We're saying, Pastor, I'm so busy, and here you are telling me that you're gonna, I got to do more in the evening. Is that what you're telling me? No, I'm challenging you to take the time you have, and as Eli has aptly said, correctly said, be intentional with it. That's what he's saying. Yeah. Hey, what is the strategy? How do I allocate the time that I do have with my bride? So I read a cool article that kind of sparked my thinking in this, and I kind of laid out a little strategy here based on that. Some of those things I read in that article that just sparked my thinking in relation to how in the world I can redeem the time. Now, let's be honest. In this technological age, I have my phone right here. I got a little outline on it. I do, so I won't forget what I'm doing. But, even whether you have kids, Tammy and I, we're empty nesters. We come home in the evening, it's just she and I. Yeah. So you may say, well, it's easier for you two, or maybe newlyweds out there. Oh, it's easy for them. They, once they get home, their time is theirs. They don't. But I'm going to tell you, it's not much different. It really isn't. We can find, as Eli has really said well, we can find a ton of things to pack into our every night, and it won't be long. We'll be in the bed, and the next morning's come, and we hadn't spent any quality time. There's one of those love languages. We hadn't spent any quality time together. One of the prime culprits is this. You can sit down, disconnect. You can start running through your email. I run through my to-do list. All right, let me click. Let me move it to the next morning. Let me reallocate the things I didn't get done, because there's always things
to do.
You're just not going to get done in the day that's on your list. So I begin to reallocate those things, and I have my own strategy for how I wind my night down. And if my strategy doesn't intentionally include her, then it won't be long till she's doing her strategy, I'm doing my strategy, and it's tomorrow morning and we're off on the day, and a lot of these days will start to string together, and somewhere down the road you're going to have an issue, and you're going to wish you could go back and say, you know what, it really didn't matter what my schedule looked like on Tuesday morning, Monday night. I could have probably found another moment to do that. So I'm going to give you a way of thinking right here. 3 things. We got to have 3, right? All right. So maybe we'll call it, let's call it a 3-hour strategy. Say if you got from 7 to 10 at night. Now, apply this. Eli and I talked about this. This doesn't apply to everyone's circumstance. You may work second shift. It may be that morning is you guys' time together. I don't know how this works. But however it looks for you, it may be that you travel together. It may be that your jobs take you around this world together. I don't know where you are situationally. But I do know that every day you got a block of time that you could strategize well. And here's just a little framework for you to hang it on. The first thing I talk about is take care of business, okay? If you want to talk about hours, maybe there's a business hour. So let's use my framework from 7 to 10 just as an example. So from 7 to 8, you get on the business, all right? If the dishes need doing, if supper needs finished up and everything cleaned up and put away, if you got to talk about finances and get the bills behind you, if you got cleaning, if it's living room night or however you do it.
Check the email.
That's right. You tackle it and you do all your business. If it's email, if it's reallocate your calendars, whatever it is, you do from 7 to 8. You say, hey, we're going to bust it. And I'm going to tell you a little tip that helps too. If the pantry's out of order, get in there. If you got 10 extra minutes, jump in there and throw away the old stuff. Just allocate 1 hour or one block of time, a third of it, to say, we're going to do business together. We're going to talk business. Who's taking the kids to the ball game? Because that's part of it, right? Or where are we connecting for lunch? That's my favorite thing. Eli, hey, where are we going to eat lunch, babe? Or are we? Can we connect for lunch? So how does that sound to you, Eli? How does that look? Let me ask a specific question for you this time. I usually just throw you out there under the bus. But how does that look for an engaged couple when I'm saying to you, redeem the time? And I'm talking about you being home at night together, going to bed at night together, getting up in the morning together. It's a different context for you. So how does that look when I say take a business hour? Do you have that? Is that even relevant? Tell me about that.
Well, I think it's, at least for Hope and I mean, the moments we do have together, we obviously try to take advantage of it. And if there is a moment where we have to talk about business, it's usually things like, when are we going to have a moment to connect? And we try to get those things, talk about them. But really the big thing for us is whenever we do have a moment together, whenever we do get to sit down, we kind of take the things that are lingering over our heads, like email or like a phone call, like a text that needs to go out, or like updating some kind of, whatever app, social media, that kind of thing. We do that and say, okay, we take 15 minutes, kind of do our thing on our phone, and then say, okay, phone's away, computer's away, we're going to go get a cookie together, or we're going to go, like last night, I went over there and ate some supper with them. Woo! And I go and hang out, we do our thing, put the phones away, and you got to get those things out of the way, otherwise it lingers over your head.
Agreed.
And you think about, man, I got to do that, I got to do that, I got to do that. And then I like how that's first thing. We don't have a business hour because, I'm sure we'll have to implement that.
It might not take an hour.
Right.
It might not.
But it's good to get it out of the way, get the things out of the way, do what we need to do, and then move on.
Then your mind's free.
Exactly.
Then you're there, you're present in the moment, and that bridges us beautifully to what comes next. And Eli's done that very well here. Is what I call the blessing hour, comes after that. So do the business, and it doesn't have to be an hour. I'm using that as a demarcation time. If you got an hour, then go 20 minutes, or however it breaks down for you. I call the blessing hour. This is a time where you intentionally do something together, do something fun.
Yeah.
Like you say, chill out around the dinner table. Whatever you do that is non-business, that you have already set all that aside, that you not got that distraction of social media. You've not got any of that. You've not got it on your mind because you've already dealt with it.
Right.
I really like that, Eli, that's priority and first, no matter what. Then bridge to that blessing hour.
It's not 40 days toward fitness, but the crumble cookie has got.
Woo!
They got a crazy good caramel. I think it's salted caramel something this week. I gotta get it.
You're killing me. I think Eli's contributing to Wednesday now being my celebration day. I think I'm moving it up a few days. I got time to get there. Right now, I promise you. Maybe they got a good old sugar cookie.
They have a pretty good one.
I like it. I love it, brother. So maybe Wednesday's now my celebration day. So we got the business hour, then we got the blessing hour. And if you're married, let me just tell you something. This is that moment. You say, but Pastor, we got kids. Let me tell you something. This is that moment where you can find someplace away from those kids. And I know I'm not going to embarrass Eli, him sitting here. Take a shower together. Do something. Hey, Mom's getting in the shower. Kids understand that. Well, Dad, just get in with her. Whatever. Something in this blessing hour where you spend time together physically, where you connect emotionally, where you just redeem the time. I hope Tammy's not listening to this, but I have never regretted climbing in the shower with her. I promise you, I do not look back in my life ever and say, gosh, that was wasted. That was just a wasted moment right there. I wish I could go back and undo that. That just never even enters my thinking. I hope that she can say the same thing. Now, you'll have to ask her about that. But to me, any moment like that, guys, where you can connect together, it does not have to be physical, but I would encourage you, hey, there it is right there. Just make a moment where whatever blesses you as a couple, make a moment for that, okay? And if you start even when you're early in your marriage doing this, when there are no children, and then when they're born, it's easy for them, and they should. And they're going to, whether you want them to or not, they're going to take a large chunk of your time. It's good that you even manage that when those kids are young and you make an intentional moment together. Because I'm going to tell you, Tammy and I are at the other end of it, where we're glad we made it a priority as we walk through those years raising the girls and seeing them launch out. Now it's not a hard thing at all for us to connect together. So in any way, not just time-wise, but a lot of people get there and they have the time and they don't have the desire. So
Right.
praise the Lord, that we are where we are, and I'm just sowing that truth into you guys. So let it be a blessed hour. You may play a game together. Some couples love, hey, let's get a game of Uno going, a little competitive game of Uno. That's great. Whatever it is that's a blessing to your relationship, that needs to be the second part of that strategy hour. So the spreadsheets come first, right? I mean,
Yep.
if you got spreadsheets and you're doing stuff like that, that comes first. The vacuuming, whatever works, the laundry, let's get all that out of the way, whatever day it is. Then let's have the second segment of that blessing hour. How's that feel?
And in my mental health training that I took a little class last year on this, one of the cool things about this concept that you're talking about, and this strategy, is that there's real mental benefits to this kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So when you get up in the morning, I tell a lot of people, if you struggle to get motivated, or if you have this, you don't feel like you have the energy to do things, if you do the things that you don't want to do first, get them out of the way, you kind of kickstart your brain a little bit. I made up the bed. I did the dishes. We got some of this stuff out of the way. And then you don't feel as bad about rewarding yourself. Because otherwise, if you guys go out and, then you just go straight to blessing hour, then you're going to be thinking about the things you got to do on your task list the whole time.
Absolutely.
You're trying to enjoy time together. I can't go out to eat with my wife because I got to do all these other things, and then I feel bad about not doing the dishes.
Absolutely.
So you jumpstart your brain a little bit. I tell some, there's an old military strategy. As soon as you hit the floor in the morning, make up your bed. Instead of grabbing your phone, instead of lingering around, hanging out, hit the ground, make up your bed.
Oh, I love that,
Kickstart your
Eli.
brain. It's that kind of. I like that strategy, and that's real effective.
We had a great couple that were influential in our life. She told us one time, if you guys will make sure the sink's empty and clean, the rest of your house will stay clean.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing.
Hey.
If you can start with just something to get you rolling, you'll find that it bleeds in. So, Eli, you're picking on me, man, because I'm over here laughing because I have a tendency, it is my lifestyle to go to the blessing. It really is to jump the business and go to the blessing. But I'm married to a lady, so I'm laughing because I'm married to a lady. She's never going to enjoy the blessing until she's done the business. I promise you, man. She's not ever going to do it. So it's been good. That's good, Eli. I'm laughing because you're picking on the pastor this morning.
And I, even in my engaged relationship, I'm like, Hope, you want to go and get some ice cream? She's like, I got to do something first. I got to finish homework. I got to do this.
I really do.
And
But hold on just a minute.
It's like, okay, that's fine. I'm like, hey, let's go out to eat tonight. And she's like, let me finish my homework. Let me get done with this. Let me get done with that. So I'm with you.
Oh, man. So here we go. We got the business and the blessing. And if you just did those two things, it would be great. But, Eli's talking good about not feeling the need to somehow introspectively take care of yourself as well in the midst of this relationship, because if you don't self-care, you're not going to be able to care well for others. So the third one, I had to come up with another B. So maybe don't take this as literally as it sounds, but maybe a moment to binge a little bit, okay? We binge watch things.
Good.
Netflix or whatever it is. I'm not promoting any streaming platform against another or judging you for any platform that you use. But, you binge watch things, series get under your skin.
Binge the Be the Man podcast.
That's right, yeah. Maybe you're on social media with us right now and you're binge moment. I like that. So, you whatever works for you and can help you, something you just enjoy. How about that? Is that the best way? The blessing hour is something you enjoy collectively. But there's also this hour where you need to do something. If your thing is to hit your reels on social media for an hour before you go to bed, you do not feel as bad at all. As a matter of fact, you feel good because there's no judgment there. Your spouse is not in the bed beside you going, holy smoke, man. I mean, really? Here we are. You ain't said 2 words to me, and you're over there just roll, roll, roll. And if you don't think that's a real thing, you better wake up, brother, because it can happen. And you're going to offend the one you love the most, and you're not meaning to just by prioritizing your phone over and the time with it over them. But if you've done these other 2 things, then you make an agreement, baby, if you want to go watch 5 episodes of Seinfeld before you go to bed, then go get it. Yep. I love you and good on you. And that way both of you feel good about, I love this strategy. And if I could tell you I came up with it, I would. Again, I'm fashioning this in the way that I think is really applicable from some thoughts that a magazine article threw forth. And man alive, I think it's just, it could be game-changing for you guys if you would do this. So, you know, whatever it works for you at the end of the day, if it's having that extra donut and a hot tea, or if it's spending some time with your dog, or if it's again, you know, don't feel guilty about if I'm running my social media and just checking up on people and things, and or even if it's a TV show or whatever it is. How does that sound to you in the order of things too, Eli? I was very strategic, and Eli picked up on that, on how I laid these things out. I mean, you could probably do them in any order, but I think this is an effective order. So how does that set with you, Eli?
Yeah, and again, you know, I think about just the mental health realm. You know, I did a lot of study into this, and there's this concept in this called the serotonin menu, if you will. You know, and there's things like, you know, the appetizers that are the business. You got, you know, you get them done. You can. They're not super enjoyable, but they're part of it. And then the blessing. That's the entree. That's the main portion. That's what you like the best, and you enjoy it the most. And then when you're done with the entree, you go to the dessert. You don't have to have it, but you don't feel as bad if you already have the entree. So it's kind of like this, you know, domino effect of, I don't feel as bad because I did this, and I'm glad I did these things. And now I can reward myself.
Dude, that's gold. Yeah. That's great, man. And yeah, well, you're not gonna need me around here much anymore, brother. You got it. You got it going on. That's perfect, man. That's a grand way to look at this. I don't know how we could say it any better than that. Maybe a strategy to the perfect evening meal. Maybe that's what we say. So you won't waste a night with your spouse, and guys, redeem that time.
Well, let me ask you this before I let them go. I mean, again, this is not from my experience because I'm not married and have kids. What about folks that've got kids? I mean, how do they? I'm sure there's men out there thinking,
you got to do it.
2 or 3 kids. What do I do?
We have people ask Tammy and I in private. Have people ask us that more than any other thing. Not in a public setting, but in a private setting. We have people approach us and say, listen, I hear y'all saying this and spend time together.
Like,
how in the world you got 3 kids running around? You have to be. I'm going to go back to the scripture. Take a couple of thoughts from Mary. Opportunistic. You got to be opportunistic. Okay. There is a minute in 3 hours in the evening. If it's 10 minutes, now, you know, your ideal would be, let's go away to Pigeon Forge. Let's have a hotel room with the walk-in shower, and that we can have all night just to enjoy one another. And those are great moments. But the reality is that's not the way life usually works. So you have to be opportunistic in the evening, okay? If you're talking about physical together, intimately, sexually together, and how do we do that? How in the world we carve out time for that when we got 3 kids running around? Be opportunistic, because there's going to be a minute where there's going to be, and I say a minute, there's going to be 10 or 15, 20 minutes where the kids are distracted, whether they're doing something, even when you put them to bed. If you intentionally need, listen, guys, apply it to your context, okay? I'm not up here saying, gosh, Pastor's saying if we don't get together every night that there's something wrong with our relationship. I'm not saying that at all. That's an unrealistic expectation. I'm saying be opportunistic, okay? Even in that blessing hour, it doesn't have to be a sexual thing. It can be just a joyful thing. And your kids can be right in the living room while you're at this table with a cup of coffee and just enjoying one of those company, maybe having that dream date while your kids are just hanging in here playing a game or doing their thing. Maybe you're just having that dream date. Now, if you got a situation where a kid won't leave you alone, you're going to have to deal with that as far as even in the living room, if they can be a little separate from you. You're going to have to take some steps to say, hey, this is mom and dad moment, and tell them this is a blessing hour. You're sowing into their life for their future mates. They'll remember you saying, this is a blessing hour for mom and dad. We've done the business. We've had dinner. We've been with you guys. We've taken you to the sports. Now, this is a mom and dad moment. We're going to be sitting at the table. You ease into the living room. Maybe they're already in that binge moment where you don't need to feel guilty as a parent, letting them have their dessert moment, something they love, so that you can enjoy that blessing hour. So be opportunistic, be spontaneous, but what I'm trying to really say today is be strategic. If you don't plan on this happening, it won't. You have got to plan a way that you do that. Again, be creative. I used an example earlier. Mom's out. She's getting her shower for the morning. She's getting ready. She's ironing clothes. You guys are on your own. There you go. There's your 10, 15 minutes that you guys can catch together that are priceless in a 24-hour day. Okay, even if you guys, I don't know why I'm so so sappy today. I sometimes just love watching Tammy iron clothes and get ready to go. And to me, I'm just sitting there going, and I just tell her, you are gorgeous. You look so good. You just confident. She's happy. I'm just so blessed to have her in my life. And sometimes I think, how can this lady be in my house doing those things in our house? I term that my house. How can this lady be in my life doing those things for me and for our household? How blessed am I beyond measure? So there's an hour of blessing. Or maybe you just appreciate the goodness of the Lord and putting the people in your life, your spouse in your life in the way that he has. So, yeah, there's my thought, Eli. You got to be opportunistic. Hey, it might be out of order. Okay, it might not be in order, guys, that are running spreadsheets.
True.
Maybe somebody else is giving the kids a ride home. Well, put the blessing hour first in that night, okay? So you got to be opportunistic. You got to be spontaneous. But ultimately, I think most times you're going to have to be strategic.
And I think what I'm hearing you say too is that in the be the man principle, it starts with us men.
Yes, it does.
We've got to lead that out and take that intentional effort and be intentional and say, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity and make it happen.
Yep, and I'm going to tell you something else. I mean, and I believe the Lord's in this. Somebody's listening, Eli, that needs to hear this. It starts in the morning. We're talking about a 7 to 10 at night, but you can't roll in at 7 and say, all right, from 7 to 8, we're going to bust it and we get all the housework done, and then roll in at 8 into the bedroom and go, honey, here we go. That isn't going to work for her, and that isn't going to be good for you. It starts with that understanding in the morning and with setting that pattern day after day, and with flexibility, knowing that, honey, this is a blessing hour, so it's really not set aside to fulfill my physical needs.
Yeah.
It is set apart for us to enjoy the blessing that is the relationship that we have. Eli had a great friend. He's gone on to be with the Lord. I admired his marriage so much. He and his wife met later in life after they'd both gotten saved. They had a past, a story to tell to the nations. And man, when the Lord put them together, he did a dynamic thing. They had a big ministry together.
Wow.
He's gone on to be with the Lord. And he would always say to me, Stacy, don't you ever forget that intimacy isn't sex. It is, but that can be part of it. But connection and intimacy with your bride, it isn't about that. That's a good part of it, but it isn't about that. There's so much more to it than that. And maybe that's what I'm trying to say. In that blessing hour, certainly that's a part of it. That physical connection, that physical touch is a part of it. But, really it's meant just to be quality time. Whatever blesses you two as a couple, that's what you need to do. So that's powerful, brother.
And I love what you said about it starting in the morning. Even for guys who aren't married like myself, I think we can apply this in every realm. For me, I wake up in the morning in a little apartment by myself, make up my bed, kind of clean up around the apartment, pick up my clothes, that kind of thing. And it establishes a rhythm that I think that whenever we do get married,
absolutely,
it'll set myself up, because you come home at the end of the day, or if you wake up in the morning and don't do anything and just head out the door, split like you're, running the Daytona 500, then you come back at home and it's just not a comfortable, we talked about that.
No.
It's not a comfortable environment. It's not you are not setting the tone to make it an enjoyable place to be.
Yep. Your home should be your refuge, man.
Yep.
And Eli's right, guys. That's the whole point of this podcast. It's up to us to set the tone in this. It's up to us to take the lead in this. And when you do, you watch what happens. You'll see results that just because you're attentive and just because you're intentional. And I would say today, share it with your wife. If this strategy or some variation of it, it doesn't have to be identical to this. Apply it to your situation. You go home and ask your wife, what is a grand strategy? I have these ideas. I'm going to lay them out, but what do you see? Does this work? Is there something different we can do? Does this fit our context? And man, she will be over the moon. I promise you. She will be Jesus. Okay? Hey, let it go, honey. Yeah, I'm receiving every bit of that. I surely am. Thank you for seizing this moment and redeeming this time and wanting to be intentional and extravagant in the way that you do it. So, guys, hey, there's a strategy for you that you'll make the most of every night with your bride. You will.
Guys, I'm going to put this 3-hour strategy right below you, if you in the comment section and the description on YouTube, you just tap the little more button and it'll scroll down. You'll see the 3-hour strategy. Just write that down, copy and paste it, put it in your notes, kind of have it as a tangible thing, and try to implement that into your lives. And maybe look out next week. We'll be having our Be the Man Live coming out. Y'all check that out. We're going to be highlighting some of these principles and some of the foundational things of Be the Man, and this is certainly one of those things. You got anything else to leave them with, preacher?
Oh, just love you guys, man. This has been like gold for me this morning. I'm so happy to be with you, and just praying daily. I want you to know that. Eli and I spend time talking to you here, but I spend a lot of time in prayer for the folks that pick this up, and for your homes, your marriages, and for you, because you're striving to do this. You're striving to be the man the Lord wants you to be. And know that we're behind you in an agreement with you in prayer. And if you need us, I love what Eli said, man, find a way. He makes it really easy for you to get in contact with us. Take advantage. Don't have to find it. Take advantage of that opportunity to let us know how you're doing and how we can more significantly pray for you guys. I love all of you.
We'll see you guys next time. Y'all scroll down, leave us a like, share this video out, and catch us on Be the Man and all our media outlets at Trinity of Fairview. See you guys.